Guys, thanks for listening to the Frog Brothers podcast. We'd greatly appreciate it if you could like and subscribe if you're listening on YouTube, and if you're listening on the audio feed on Spotify or Apple or Twitch or wherever you listen, tell your friends and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube at youtube.com/thefrogbros. Hit us up on Instagram at Frog Bros Podcast, on Twitter at bros_frog, on TikTok at Frog Bros Podcast, and follow us on Facebook. Join our Facebook group Frog Bros Video by searching just that, Frog Bros Video. Hit request to join and you'll be approved. We have shirts available. The link is in our Instagram bio and below in the description. And you can find stickers on Etsy at Frog Bros, all one word. Additionally, if you'd like to give us a call and leave a voicemail soon, our Patreon will be live and we'll be posting monthly responses and reactions to the voicemails. Dial 816-832-5388.
Hi, I'm Jameson Newlander, Alan Frog from the Lost Boys, and you're watching the Frog Brothers Podcast.
Let me get him!
It's refreshment time, folks.
I'm just gonna go watch a movie.
Do you like scary movies?
I don't watch movies.
I have to return some videotapes.
You have a TV?
No. I just like to read the TV guide. Read the TV guide. I don't need a TV.
Books, records, films, these things matter. Call me shallow. It's the fucking truth.
Over 1,600 titles, each for rent at just $2 the first night, and only
I don't watch TV.
Yeah, but you are aware that there's an invention called television, and on this invention they show shows, right?
It's a laser disc.
Okay, I want channels 18, 24, 63, 109, 87, and Weather Channel.
Welcome to the Frog Brothers podcast with your hosts, Justin and Alec.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Frog Brothers podcast. My name's Justin. This is Alec.
Welcome back.
And let's take a moment of recognition here to say that The Real Ghostbusters turned 35 years old today. It premiered on the 13th day of the 9th month of the 1986th year. So, happy birthday, Real Ghostbusters. Speaking of Ghostbusters and Real Ghostbusters, the official YouTube channel has decided to continue releasing additional episodes and making those available, so if you're into that, they should be making a comeback and launching more episodes soon.
These weirdos.
I think they just wanted to do that
Hype for the movie, yes.
Yeah, and then with everything changing, they're like, yeah, well, let's keep doing that. Speaking of which, I got my Real Ghostbusters shirt on. I was at the gas station on my way over here to get a drink, and some guy looked a little older than me. He was like, hey, man, nice shirt. I was like, thanks, I know. It's kind of asinine to say. I know, I'm aware.
I actually got like 4 compliments on my Halloween shirt today at various restaurants and stuff while door dashing, so
it's beautiful. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Hey, speaking of that, did you see the Hawkeye trailer?
I didn't yet, actually. I saw that it was available, but I haven't watched it yet.
Okay, I watched that today. It's pretty good. Pretty excited for it.
Pretty good.
It's very Halloween, or not Halloween-centric, holiday-centric, around Christ Mass.
Yeah.
What else do we got in the news? Oh, yeah, on this day, I forget the exact year, but Mortal Kombat was released on September 13th for its home release. Yeah. Oh, your news is blank. The news is blank.
I wrote no news down, but I actually meant to write several things down. There's several anniversaries of random shit this week that I just didn't write down.
Yeah, so shout out to my friend Daniel. He sent out the thing first thing this morning, an old school ad saying, coming soon to your home video consoles or whatever. It was the Mortal Kombat ad for
I just want to get a clip
Super
now
Nintendo
for our board that says coming soon. So anytime something's mildly erotic, I can hit that button.
I mean, fuck. You should have that playing on your phone too. That way, like when you're about ready to blow a load, you can be like, coming soon.
That's the joke, yeah. Basically.
But I mean, actually do it during sex though, not just like while we're on the podcast.
Coming soon to a set of tits near you.
Or an asshole, or a beaver.
Coming soon to a face on you.
Okay. All right. And that's, there you have it.
That's it.
That's it. Anything else in the news that you wanted to mention there, Junior?
No, I can't think of anything. Anything happened that I
Ordered another Tony Taylor Toys miniature ghost or ghost companion. He released a version of the ghost bathtub. inspired by.
Is that what it's called? The
Ghostbusters
Ghost
2.
Bathtub?
I forget the actual name, and I'm a bastard for that, but I got one of the colored ones.
You are best. You bastard.
Hand painted. So that should be in the mail soon, don't you know?
Yeah.
You son of a bitch.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
That's about all there is going on in the news. We're, I guess, we're going to move on.
Well, that was quick.
I mean,
short, but
yeah, I
pointless.
don't see, you know.
Let's get right to it. Water Cooler Cult on tonight's episode of Marvel What If.
What if zombies, bro?
Zombies, man.
What if zombies were in the Marvel
Them zombie
movies?
guys, you know, them guys that eats each other's up, you know, they eat the flesh off the other guys. They're not cannibals, though, because they're all technically dead. So they eat the skin off the friends, and then the friends die, but become living dead things, and that's zombies, right?
Yeah, it's Spider-Man. Spider-Man fights the zombies.
Spider-Man fights the zombies.
He beats off the zombies.
He beats them off, huh? Beats them off real good.
He blows them with his mouth.
Blows them away with that sticky spider web of his, you know what I mean? It's like sprays them in the face and they can't get it out and their hands are stuck like this. It's like
he puts the penises in his mouth.
Okay. No, so this is an interesting episode. Obviously, the Marvel comic series of zombies is pretty extensive, so it's one of those fun, like, offshoot.
Zombies.
My buddy Josh has the pretty good collection of the trade paperbacks of those. So
I have like one of them that's like a general collection or something. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, so that's pretty awesome though to see that they've adapted this and they made it fit in with the MCU and everything else. So that was fun.
Yeah, like kind of story wise and stuff. Yeah.
The story is interesting. There's a lot of Hank Pym and going on in these.
Yeah.
So
I think we're gonna see more of that going forward too. In general, I mean, there's another Ant-Man movie coming out, but
yes,
in general, but we'll see if Ant-Man makes another appearance in something else too.
I'm sure he will.
I mean, eventually we're gonna have another Avengers movie too.
Yeah, and it's gonna have to be new Avengers characters. So
yeah, and I'm sure Ant-Man will be involved in that still.
Now I got to tell you though,
I don't know how many more movies they'll do with Ant-Man, but because he's on his third already, but he only did one small appearance in Captain America, and then he was in Endgame throughout. But
yeah, so his appearances have been fewer than
he might have
others,
like
but
2 or 3 more, like film appearances. So we'll see.
Yeah,
I don't know.
You never know. It kind of depends too on how the actor's feeling. They can always renegotiate or come back for more or do less. So
yeah.
But I did get a kick out of his character in this episode. It was all fucking Futurama vibes, and it was amazing.
Exactly. That's what I wrote down.
All the dad jokes he was making, too. Like, how do you keep such an upbeat attitude? Like, between him and Peter Parker, like, you felt good about the episode. Like, everyone's dying, but those two made you feel good about it. You're like, yeah, that's all right. It's okay. We can handle that.
Iron Man zombie, Captain America zombie. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I liked how he started off with those. It was pretty cool how you just see that it was Hank goes into... Well, Hank and obviously Hope are dealing with finding Janet in the quantum realm, and then, she's obviously got the quantum virus, I think is what they refer to it as, and came out, and it all went hell from there, so that was interesting.
Fucking Janice.
Janet. Damn it, Janet.
I said Janice.
Yeah, I know. It's like, you dumb bastard. You did something that I would normally do, so thanks for taking one for the team, pal. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Lots of death in here.
Yeah, typical.
I loved how Vision was such a cunt.
Yeah.
And like just feeding people. Like that's how you're the android. You can't get this, yet you're the one doing the shit that I would expect other people to do. It's pretty amazing.
I'm feeding the zombies.
Well, we saw, Sharon? We saw Sharon and Happy Hogan die, so they had some smaller characters come in, which made sense. And then we got to see T'Challa come in, so we did get another Chadwick Boseman episode, so that was cool.
Was that actually him?
Mm-hmm. Yep, he was cast for anytime he's appeared in this series, it's actually his voice.
Okay, so that's good, because I honestly was doing a lot of other stuff while I watched this one. I'm going to have to go back and rewatch it again. But
Yeah, a lot of the voice cast did theirs except for Spider-Man, and I don't know if that's a Sony Marvel thing or what was going on with that. So, and the guy that did Spider-Man was okay. I didn't necessarily love it or hate it, so it was just fine. But Spider-Man was a pretty big role in the episode, so
for sure.
It was pretty cool seeing.
I like how Bucky gets the shield in there.
Yeah, that was cool to see too. And they imply, they don't show, but that he fucking like beheads Captain with his own shield.
Yeah.
That his scene goes dark, which I thought was tasteful for, a cartoon, right? You don't need to show that, but imply it.
And then, Hope dies too.
Mm-hmm. It was interesting. We see Doctor Strange's cape in there because it rescues Peter Parker and throws him on there. And then later on, when it's the fucking Doctor Strange's cape flying Paul Rudd and saves the glass jar from breaking when he falls, that was amazing. I would watch a whole fucking series around Paul Rudd's head with the fucking cape from Doctor Strange. Like, give me a series of that just alone. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
That was good. And then Ant-Man's head, that's what we got on there. But when Hope sacrifices herself, it's great because she goes and becomes giant. And Sharon has gone bad, and so she explodes out of Sharon and like enlarges herself the way that everyone wanted Ant-Man to kill Thanos in the movie, which is beautiful that they did that and used that as like a thing. That was a good little fan service
Specifically
nod.
his butt.
Yeah.
Although if it was me, I'd say to go up his cock or his alien genitals in general.
Yeah, I don't even know what he has. What do you think he has down there?
He could have 2 cocks. He could have 3 cocks and a pussy. He could have any number of strange genitals. He could have a 3-pronged cock. Does it split off like a trident?
Since he's purple, does it change color like when it's hard and throbbing or around?
I imagine it's like a darker purple. If you took a water balloon that was purple already, like a limp one, that would be his limp dick. But then once you filled it with blood, it'd be like if you filled it with grape juice.
Oh, so it gets darker?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dark.
I don't know if it would like turn more of a red color, lighter color. I have no idea how
I think dark
how
and
that
plump
alien species exists. It's pretty good questions. It's important things to talk about.
I think it definitely has like ridges too, like his chin.
Oh, I guarantee it. Yeah.
On the head.
For sure.
Yeah. That's Thanos' penis for you, or I don't know. It's a bit debate. It's debatable.
I like how Vision kills himself in this.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. And then Wanda's all pissed off.
Wanda's all pissed off.
Scoob.
Oh, like G Scoob.
You don't need
Scoob.
There it is.
There it is.
That was pretty good. But then Bruce decides to Hulk out and hulks out at the last second, per usual at this point in time, right? Because he hasn't become Dr. Hulk yet.
Nope.
So that's a pretty entertaining fight, seeing him fight Wanda, but they don't really resolve. They just get away. They escape.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Gets to the point. And then they're flying off to Wakanda. Hope tries to grab the fucking plane. They're able to blast away. And then the last little beauty of that is, much like an angry child or toddler, you see the fucking other zombie get fucking thrown at the jet.
Yeah.
It misses, but they throw it in anger. And they're like, I see.
Yes.
Let the hate flow through you. And then they're like, hey, we're going to go broadcast this thing from the stone from Wakanda because we have the technology to do it there. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. And then you see in Wakanda that Thanos has landed there and is infected. And he's got all of the rocks besides the one he wants to wrap around his cocks. The Mind Stone. So, now some of these at first I was thinking, I don't know if I want to see more to them, but I'm definitely interested to see what that fight would look like. Thanos with the zombie Thanos with the gauntlet. Kind of neat.
Could be kind of fun, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. Either way.
The zombie episode was good.
Yeah, like I said, I need to watch it again too, but my main takeaway is the grape juice Thanos penis.
Well, what else is there to talk about? How does he reproduce, though?
I don't know. But I think the people are going to be like,
oh man, they talk about Thanos' penis a lot. I don't like this podcast. But
Disney joked about genocide, let's not forget, and sniffing corpses and being like, oh my god, Thor's dead body smells like I want to be inside it. And shit like that. Like, fucking Disney.
No, they do what
I'm
they want.
Thanos and I want to commit genocide.
Hey, Space Hitler, calm down.
Basically.
It's Grimace Hitler. That's what he is.
I like German shepherds. And painting.
And the color purple.
And sauerkraut.
Could you guess Thanos' favorite painting or favorite album?
Purple Rain.
Yes. All right. Well, that was this episode of What If. So if we fuck this up and you don't want to talk about Thanos' purple veiny bang,
His main vein.
you're gonna have to find another show to listen to because we just did it and you just
Finish him.
And it's funny that all the icons on your screen are purple.
Yeah, isn't it? I like purple,
And the
though.
sound waves, yeah.
I like purple a lot, actually. My bed sheets and my bathroom towels and shit are purple. Just like my cock when it gets hard. Like Thanos. That's why I was describing it that way. Mine's like, I think there's something wrong with my blood.
Can I ask you a question? Have you tattooed the tip of your penis to look like Thanos yet? That way when you're ready to go, it looks like Thanos is getting ready to snap.
I'm just debating now whether it'd be better to tattoo the whole thing purple or do it gold and put the stones on it. Be like the infinity cock.
That would just be a cock ring you put on it.
True. I am inevitable.
Put some vibrating stones in there for your partner's pleasure.
Exactly.
And your own.
Oh, God.
That person doesn't exist. Because if they did, they would strike us down for the things we say.
I like that George Carlin bit when he's like, if there is a God, may he strike me dead. Oh, wait a second. I think there's something wrong with my heart. Oh, never mind. I think it's just gas. Something like that.
Pretty much. Yep. So, what do we want to jump into next?
We're going to jump into,
You know what I just watched?
Me pulling a can off some moron's fist?
Return of the Jedi.
Did you see Alien? When that creature was in that guy's stomach?
Oh my god!
You ever seen that really old movie? Empire Strikes Back?
Jesus, Tony.
welcome to Retro Release Reviews. David Lynch, 1997.
The sequel
Universal Studios.
to Independence Day.
Lost Highway. The president has taken a sabbatical.
President Whitmore has taken a sabbatical.
Working as a saxophone player at a nightclub in L.A.
Hey, Bill Clinton was in there at the time. It's all plays out in my book.
Pretty much.
Mr. President. Mr. President.
And wake him.
Yes. Beautiful.
You say that again? There's actually, I should cut those two movies together now. It makes me want to do like a weird fucking Independence Day 2, like deleted scenes. I'll like make it look like.
Hell yeah, please do so.
We'll be like, what the fuck is happening?
There's shit that the world needs that we didn't know it needs. And we have. So, Lost Highway. This is the first time for me seeing it. It's delightful. I enjoyed it.
I've seen this probably, like, this is my 5th or 6th time at this point.
So, it's David Lynch. You get a lot of great stuff in there.
One of my favorite David Lynch movies. I don't know how many notes you took on this, but by the way, here's my notes on it. This page, this page, this page, this page, this page, this page.
I didn't take notes last night for the first portion I watched, but yeah, I got a good section here.
All right, well, I got some pre-notes. Gary Gifford co-wrote this with David Lynch.
Okay.
And he is the guy who wrote the book that Wild at Heart is based on.
Nice.
All right. It also has 5 sequels, the book does, with all those other characters, Sailor and Lula. The movie has been described by some as a Mobius strip, which is like that little, like a cylinder, but then it's like an optical illusion, kind of like this.
Oh yeah,
like an MC Escher kind of thing, so. where it's like if you were driving along this Mobius strip, oh, he might have hurt his ear. Poor guy.
Booger is here to give us moral support while we record.
So anyway, that's an interesting thing. And of course, Angelo Badalamenti returns to do the score.
Yeah, great score.
And you have a very interesting soundtrack as well.
Mm-hmm.
Our main stars are Bill Pullman, Patricia Arquette, Robert Blake, Robert Loggia. Which is interesting. Obviously, we were talking about how, Bill Pullman and Robert Loggia are both in Independence Day as well, which came out the year before this.
Mm-hmm.
Which is just fascinating.
I almost wish they had some screen time in this just to play off that. Like more than what we see.
Yeah.
Because it's just very...
It's very brief, yeah.
Very brief to the point. Fascinating, though.
So...
Fred and Renee.
We start out with the highway sequence, though. It's just literally, when the movie starts, it's just like blank highway. And David Bowie's Deranged playing.
Yeah.
I fucking love that song.
Isn't that what's playing on that ending as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so.
It's like a slightly different version, like the reprise of it, but yeah. It's still cool as hell.
Very similar footage, right? So you just get that highway look of like the low beams.
Which David Lynch does in a lot of shit.
Yeah.
It's in the Return of Twin Peaks as well, which again, I will say this a lot as we watch more David Lynch stuff, like, oh, this reminds me of The Return.
Yes. This
like
feels
I did with
like
Eraserhead.
This movie feels like it's straight in universe with Twin Peaks, though.
Feels pretty close.
Very much more direct some of the other ones do.
Mm-hmm.
So.
So yeah, you get Fred smoking alone in the dark, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's kind of like, oh, now it's light. And someone rings his door buzzer, basically. And then he goes and listens to it. And he hears him say, Dick Laurent is dead.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes and he's like looking out his windows, trying to see if he can see somebody walking away. The cool thing about that is that's based on something that actually happened to David Lynch.
Oh,
That's
really?
where the name Dick Laurent even came from. He said one time at his house, somebody buzzed the thing and said, Dick Laurent is dead. And then just left. And he's like, I have no idea who that was. And I looked out the windows and didn't ever see anybody.
That's
weird.
fucking awesome.
So then later that night, it's kind of, David Lynch does a lot of this kind of storytelling where there's not a whole lot of dialogue necessarily at certain points. So it's very visual. And he's packing up his saxophone. And then you see Patricia Arquette as Renee come up to him.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just kind of like, yeah, I'm not going. I'm going to stay home and read. He's like, you're going to read? What are you going to read?
Yeah, he's
I love his voice.
He's very nonchalant in this, right? It's like, in the, if you're familiar with Independence Day, the tone of voice he uses most of the time when he's talking for dialogue in this is like when...
Could you say that again?
She's like, you're lying. He's like, no, I'm not.
Yeah. Oh, God, that whole scene.
Yeah, exactly.
Bye.
He's great in this, though, and I just wish he was in more of it.
Yeah. Well, it's like, how accomplished of an actor is this guy to have been in Spaceballs, Independence Day, and Lost Highway? That's fucking diverse as hell.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in every role, none of the roles are like, oh, this is this or that, right? Funny, serious, and then abstract.
And this is arguably a horror movie, too.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
It's bizarre. It's more of a thriller, I'd say, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's kind of a subgenre these days, so... let's see... He's in a fucking jazz club playing the fucking shit out of a saxophone.
Well, you were going to say a saxophone, and I was like, what is a saxophone? This sounds intriguing. Can we talk about that for a minute?
A saxophone.
Saxophone. Is that like a clone your bone? Is that what that is?
I got nothing for that one.
Okay.
I can't come up with anything. My mind's not quick enough
Well,
for that.
if you're looking to get in the market of a clone-a-bone, just call it the saxophone, and, there you go.
This whole thing, this bit is a Angelo Badalamenti track, though, that is on the soundtrack, and it's fucking dope as hell. It's like this wild saxophone and just He
And
goes
not,
fucking
like,
nuts.
Not tacky in the way that you're like expecting Kenny G smooth jazz sax. It's a little more wild than that.
Oh yeah, think more of like Ron Burgundy playing jazz flute at the club.
Yes, for sure.
Less wacky, but still over the top like that.
Mm-hmm.
More red lights. Red lights a lot in this movie, which is interesting. He's smoking a cigarette and he calls, and Renee is not answering the phone at home.
I know.
And then it kind of goes into one of those visions where he's walking down the hallway to his bedroom and see the red curtains. And you're like, where have I seen those red curtains before? I'll tell you where I've seen them. I've seen them in Twin Peaks for sure. And actually, I've maybe some other David Lynch movies too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Including this one. A lot. Yeah. Renee gets the paper in the morning, brings in a package, which
happens to be a VHS tape
Mm-hmm.
of them sleeping in their bedroom.
Oh, that's not the them sleeping one. That's just the outside of their house.
Oh, okay. That is the first one, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, because at first you're just like, okay, whatever.
Then it shows him later on, like, in bed, and he thinks off to the night before at the club or whatever. Or maybe it was earlier. Yeah, that's later that night, actually. The second day. The night before is what he's thinking back to at the club where he's performing, and he sees her walking off. She's at the club, but he sees her walking off with the guy we learn his name is Andy.
Mm-hmm.
Like dude with the weird pencil mustache.
Pencil mustache, yeah.
And then she gets naked, and then they fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Let the fucking begin.
Yeah, there's a lot of fucking in this movie. Whole lot of fucking.
And then they play the song. What is it called? I have it written down somewhere. Siren, Song for Siren or something. Song to the Siren by This Mortal Coil. And it plays a couple other times in this movie, but it's not on the soundtrack, and it fucking works so well. Like, I had to look it up. I was like, what the hell is this? Because I have the soundtrack, and I've listened to it many times, and this ain't on it, babe.
So when you had to go research because they didn't have it on there, which is kind of strange for that. But
they
at the
do
same
some slow
time,
motion. Yeah. Like, it gets slow motion in the sex scene. You see her, like, tits bouncing in slow-mo, and you're like, oh, this is kind of cool, but it's such a dark and weird scene because then it's like she's patting him on the back because you don't know if he, like, she's like, it's okay, she's saying. So you don't know if he's, like, going limp, going going not happy in general and having a bad time, and she knows that and can tell, and then he's just over it, or he's, like, panicking or something. Like, there's several things that you could gather that could be implied from this.
And the interesting piece from that scene is, like you said, the slow motion, but it switches back and forth between slow motion and, like, regular motion stuff. And
Yes.
it does that in several of the sex scenes in this movie,
Mm-hmm.
which takes away from the eroticism of them a little bit, just because it's not what you're expecting, right? So for that to slow down, and it's not like slow motion in a way that's, like, tacky or obnoxious. It's just unsettling is how it's designed to be.
Yeah.
So it's just slow enough that you're like, why the hell is this slowed down? And then you realize it's David Lynch, and regardless of why it was slowed down, it doesn't fucking matter because it is what it is.
Yeah. So then he goes to bed. They wake up or whatever, and he tells her about his dream last night.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows smoke, like, pouring out of their bedroom, which is just a cool fucking shot.
That is an awesome one in there for sure.
And then it shows the vision of walking down the hall again with the red curtains and shit. And he's like, and I saw you in bed, only it wasn't you. It looked like you, but it wasn't you. And then while he's telling her this in bed, her face, like, morphs into the mystery man's face for a quick weird second. And the effect is bad, but it kind of helps it because it's so weird. And David Lynch likes to do these weird things that look awkward and weird on purpose.
Yes.
So I think that's why.
There's another scene that's very similar and much more exaggerated later on.
Yeah.
But that works because you're just like, what? And it isn't, you don't know what that is until you've rewatched that more than once.
Yeah. The second tape is outside. She brings it in and just sets it down, and then he's like, well, we should watch this. Don't you want to watch it? And then it shows them fucking basically in bed. Someone broke in and taped us while we slept. When she says that on the phone to the police, it's like a zoom into her mouth, you know? Someone broke in and taped us while we slept. And I was like, that's got to be a trailer line. I didn't go and watch the trailer to verify this, but I feel like it is.
Well, then, don't they just cut to the chase and get to calling the police on it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They call the police.
Yeah, because then the police are like, okay.
And
they don't really want to do anything at first. And then
they're kind of clueless police. That's David Lynch's, like, a trope of his that he uses. Like, the police are kind of bumbling and, like, there might be, like, one who knows what's up, but...
Yeah, so they come out there and they're asking all the questions. The ones I found interesting are like, just one bedroom? And they're like, yeah, just this one? And they're like... And then they kind of, like, circle back to, oh, yeah, we've got a soundproof room for... Oh, you're a musician?
What's your axe, he says.
Yeah, what's your axe?
This is one of the best line deliveries in the whole fucking movie, and it's so... I'd laugh out loud every time I hear it because I forget that it's there, and he goes, tenor sax. Like he's fucking James Bond. That's his style of delivery.
Yeah, it's amazing in there. That's a good one.
And then he has one of the best lines from this movie where he's like, they're like, do you own a video camera? And she's like, Fred doesn't like cameras. And he's like, I like to remember things my own way. And the cop's like, how was that? And he's like, how I remembered them. Not necessarily the way they happened. It's very fascinating.
True. It's a whole concept there, right?
Yes.
And I would love to have that philosophical conversation with David Lynch on that, just to see where he's coming from with it. But it's very interesting, right? Because that is the thing. You know, the photo is very different than what you remember in many cases, especially with lots of early memories, right?
Yep.
Fragmented memories or whatever else. So
then they go to a party at Andy's, and they're chilling there, and he goes to get them drinks, and he gets some scotches or whatever. And
this is an interesting introduction here.
The song that's playing is Barry Adamson's "Something Wicked This Way Comes."
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting song. Very party song. So he gets them drinks, and then you see kind of that pale face from before you see it, kind of like just standing out there in the crowd, and then the guy starts approaching him. To me, he looks like the guy that was in the Mercy Killers, the shorter guy that
oh yeah,
always used to wear the Nosferatu coat, basically, because that's what this guy looks like, is like a Nosferatu wannabe.
I wrote down in my notes that he looked like the poor man's Grandpa Munster because he's pale and kind of has those cheeks that remind me of Grandpa Munster, and just enough of the widow's peak that, like, every time I saw him, that's what I was thinking.
He's played by Robert Blake, who's an actor that appeared in movies in the 1930s, like that far back.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
He was that old when this was?
He was a kid in the 30s, but...
Yeah, still. Interesting.
Yeah,
He's
so he walks up, the music fades out. I like that effect, because it kind of just implies that, like...
The dialogue's super
something
important.
Supernatural is happening, too, it feels like. And he's like, we've met before, haven't we? And he's just like...
confused as fuck. He's like, no, I don't think so.
so.
Where do you think
Where?
we met? Yeah.
Your house, don't you remember?
This is fucking creepy, but amazing at the same time.
As a matter of fact... I'm there right now. And he's like, that's fucking crazy, man.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's true, because that's what you would say to someone that was telling you some crazy shit. You'd be like, fuck you.
Yeah.
You fucking hide.
He takes out an old fucking 1997 motherfucking cell phone.
Yeah.
With like a leather
flip case on it.
Yeah, it's amazing. And he's like, call me. And he fucking calls his house. And he answered us, and he's like, I told you I was here.
Yeah. While he's sitting there looking at him,
and he's like,
amazing.
How'd you do that? And he's like, ask me. So he asks him on the phone, how'd you get into my house? And the guy's like, you invited me. It's not in my custom or something like that to go where I'm not welcomed. And then he's like, give me my phone back. He says that on the phone.
Yeah, give me my phone back.
And then he hands it to him.
Hands it to him in person.
And then he walks away and the music comes back up.
The whole exchange is just so bizarre and off-putting that it just works.
The first time I watched it, I was so terrified.
Yeah, you're like,
I was like, dear God, what's happening?
Yeah, he's great. I think that's my favorite scene with him in it, just because it just really sets the tone for what.
Well, yeah, it's just shocking and weird.
And every other time you see him after that, you kind of have a little bit of a better idea, so the shock value is kind of worn off, but it's a well-done character, I'll tell you that. And they call him the Mystery Man, I think is what he's credited as,
yes,
correctly. So
that's what we call him.
Yep.
So
he gets home that night, right?
And then there's like weird flashing in the lights in the house.
And they have sex.
He's like, stay in here, and they go, and he tries to investigate, like, see if the guy's there still or something, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Don't they have sex again there?
Hold on. Let me see here. I will have written it down if they did. I don't think so.
Huh.
But the next day, the third tape arrives and shows him standing over her corpse.
Yeah. What's implied to be Renee's dead body that's dismembered, by the way, too. Not just a corpse, a dismembered corpse.
And then he's sentenced to death for murder, and he's put on death row rather quickly.
Yeah, they don't
story-wise,
fuck
they're like,
around with that.
Boom!
Yeah, he's automatically in jail. And then that's interesting, too, because you're just like, okay, right? I mean, I guess that would play out that way. He was in the house. He'd be convicted for that. And Henry Rollins makes an appearance as a cop named Jerry, or a parole officer, or not a parole officer, but a guard named Jerry. Or Henry, a guard named Henry. He has his own same name. I thought was interesting.
That's funny. He has visions while he's in jail of the Mystery Man in a burning cabin in the desert.
Yes.
Again, very Twin Peaks vibes.
Mm-hmm. And don't you see the apartment numbers there, too? Or the hotel room numbers in that scene, too?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so there's several, like,
25 and 26 or whatever.
Yeah, there's several visionary moments he has in there that's really unsettling, and it's giving him fucking terrible headaches. So at one point in time...
That's when they play the Mortal Coil song again, too.
Yeah. So he's in there suffering from a headache, and he calls for the guard, and Henry Rollins walks up and says, you know, what do you want? And he's like, can I get some Tylenol for my headache or something? And he goes back, just sits on his ass and talks to the other guy there.
Yeah.
And then next morning, they're doing their rounds, and there's Pete in the jail cell now. And no one knows how the fuck Pete wound up in Fred's jail cell.
Well, yeah. Before that, you do see the kind of quick visions of what looks like Fred going insane and blurring motion and shit like that.
Yes.
And he goes bloody. And then the other guy's in there, and he's the bloody one now. He has, like, his injuries. So, very weird. But he's like, yeah, that's not the guy. You're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy. Trust me, pal. You're not that guy. Have you seen that video? It's a video. It's like a viral video of a guy in a grocery store. I think it was probably from TikTok, but it was super popular. And some asshole fucking guy. Some guy is filming another guy, telling him to wear a mask in the grocery store or something. And the guy on the opposite side who doesn't want to wear a mask or whatever is like, You're not that guy, pal. Trust me, you're not that guy, pal. And the guy's like, are you that guy? And he's like, I am that guy. It's just like a weird, like, confrontational, hilarious thing.
Yeah, you may as well get weird.
It became a meme, so.
So, we find out that Pete is released from prison because they don't know what the fuck's going on with him. But they're all so confused by it that they set 2 detectives out to watch Pete, even though he's been released to his parents.
Yeah.
His dad is the fucking Busemeister himself, Gary Busey. And one of his very straightforward roles for a role that he did when this came out in 1997, right? I think he'd already done Black Sheep by then, right?
You already done Black Sheep, Scoob.
Yeah, we all know I do that, so it just happens. So
yeah, Gary
he has
Busey's his
very
dad.
subdued role. Not a lot of dialogue here. They just pick him up with him and his wife, and they bring him into the house, and okay.
Detectives are watching him already, too, because they're like, what the fuck? Why is this guy in this jail cell? So we got to figure this out.
Well, yeah, they're concerned. Like, how the fuck do we get a grown-ass man trading places in jail?
His friends come over, including Sheila.
Mm-hmm.
They go out to the club where they play the Smashing Pumpkins song that's on the soundtrack.
Yep.
And I'm like, why is this garbage on my soundtrack when this Mortal Coil's not? Licensing and...
Yeah.
But next day, Mr. Eddie takes Pete on a ride from the mechanic shop.
Yep.
In his car that Pete worked on and, fixes up for him. And, you know, he tells him to pull over. He does that whole bit where he fixes the car a little bit more or whatever. And he says, yeah, smooth as shit from a duck's ass.
Mm-hmm.
The tailgating scene's hilarious.
That's amazing. That's a great fucking scene.
Like, that needs to be just shared around the internet, like...
The speech that he gives?
Yes.
Is fucking on point. Right?
So
and
he's getting kind of tailgated by this guy, and the guy's honking and swerving and shit, so he is kind of generally an asshole. And then he waves for him to go around him, and he gets flipped off by the guy. And then you see the bodyguards in the back put their seatbelts on.
Yeah.
And he fucking rams him, and then fucking just rams him and makes him almost go off a cliff, basically.
Yes.
And then fucking they all get out of the car, except Pete, obviously. Pete's like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, he has no clue what he's getting into here.
And they pistol whip the shit out of him and beat his ass.
And Mr. Eddie just fucking rips him apart.
I did miss a line when they're... As soon as he flips him off, and then they are putting on their seatbelts on, he has the line, "This is what mechanical excellence, 1,400 horsepower pays off."
Yeah.
That's a line that's actually on the soundtrack, too, in front of one of the songs or something.
Oh, that's badass.
And, 50,000 people were killed on that side of the highway last year because of assholes like you.
Yeah, he fucking lays into him, and it's all statistics, it's all accurate, and you're not even mad that he does it, because you're just like, if you've ever been tailgated by some piece of shit that's in a hurry, you're like, fucking leave earlier, dickhead. Like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Get your ass up on time.
So then he just gets back in the car and leaves the guy fucking laying on the side of the road, crying and freaking out.
That dude is fucking spooked, and it's legit. He is scared.
And then he goes and drops him back off, gives him like, I don't know, $300 or something it looks like. And
Yeah.
he's like, you like pornos?
Yeah, tries to give him the VHS
Give
tape.
you a boner?
Yeah,
That's what he says.
Tries to give him the VHS tape out of the fucking glove box. Like, who carries porn in their glove box? Especially on VHS.
Right? And who's trying to give it away as like a tip? Like, what is this?
Yeah, it gives you boners. You're like, what? Fascinating shit right there.
The detectives recognize him as Dick Laurent. Mm-hmm. So that's where you obviously are like, oh, Mr. Eddie is Dick Laurent. Dick Laurent is dead. And you're like, oh, well, Dick Laurent's not dead, though.
Yeah, he's not. Fascinating.
Interesting. He picks up the Sheila, and then they go and fuck in the car.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty cool.
There's a few things, though, that we didn't mention, though, that, like, when Sheila is dancing with him at the club, she asks him, like, what the hell happened, and, he doesn't remember.
Yeah, like, she's implying that he's different somehow.
Yeah, she's kind of unsettled by that, and then even still, when she's with him again, she's kind of putting off the vibes, like, something doesn't feel right to her.
Yeah, but she's still like, I'm horny.
Well, yeah, I mean, I get it. It happens.
And I'm like, you don't need to fuck that guy. Come on. The same jazz song that Fred plays at the club is playing on the radio at the mechanic shop.
Mm-hmm.
And you have Jack Nance.
Yes.
Pete Martell.
Yeah, he's one of the co-workers of the shop.
Yeah. Fucking Pete turns off or changes the radio station, and Pete's like, I like that. Why did you turn it off?
Yeah.
And he's like, I hate it, or whatever. I have a headache. I don't know what he says. And he's like,
something, because he's like laying down and he's right by the stereo.
And he just says again, I liked that.
That's it. That's fine.
I love him.
He's great. He's just, and he does such a variety of stuff, too. Like that, just such a basic role for him, but it works.
This is when you see Alice, too, who is basically it's interesting. She's played by Patricia Arquette as well.
Only this time she's blonde.
Her hair's different.
Blonde across the board.
And then she returns later that night. She was there with Mr. Eddie before.
When he's dropping his car off to get it worked on.
Yeah, so then she returns later that night to be like, you want to go out with me or what? And he's like, I don't think I should. And then she's like, fine, I'll call a taxi. Blah, 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 blah. And he's like, nah, we're going to go out. I'm going to go fuck. And then basically
He takes the phone. Yeah, he takes the phone from him. He's like, we don't need a taxi. And then they go basically...
taxi people are probably like, oh my God, this woman's getting murdered right now.
Yeah, you would think so. Because then she's wearing that white dress and he basically starts, touching her from the outside of her
And then
dress.
they start fucking immediately.
Yeah,
they go to the
right
hotel
to
and start fucking. And you're like,
no foreplay or nothing. Must have been ready to
Where are
go.
women like this in reality? Like Patricia Arquette just
Quality,
shows up and wants to fuck you?
Yeah, you mean quality, not
movies.
Quantity?
Oh, yeah, they have the line, the detective says, fucker gets more pussy than a toilet seat.
Yeah, I have that line written down, too, because when they see him fucking... Well, that's when he's fucking Sheila again after he fucks her that night.
No, they have more comments about that later. This is when he's fucking Patricia Arquette for the first time.
It is? Okay.
Yeah.
Then he has the trippy visions of her when he's home.
Yeah, the lights blur and the static in the Marilyn Manson song.
Yeah.
The cover.
Mm-hmm.
I put a spell on you.
Yeah.
And then I essay you. You know what that means, right?
Shit on you?
No, essay. I just don't want to say it because it might get flagged on YouTube.
Oh. Well, then no.
No. Something assault.
Oh, I see. Yes, let's not discuss that. No,
that's all I can think of when I hear it.
That's all, gentlemen. That'll be gentlemen.
That's the only
that'll be
unfortunate part about seeing Marilyn Manson pop up in this movie a couple times.
Well, yeah, I was going to say
in audio and visual format.
The fact that he's basically pulling a Kevin Spacey and being the true fucking skeeve that he is in real life in a movie is disappointing. But, you know, hey, there's plenty of people like that nowadays, so we get what we get.
The parents intervene. They're like, what the fuck's wrong with you?
Well, yeah, they said the detectives come by and they're trying to figure out what's going on. And he's like, what do you mean? And then they reveal some information to him after he's like, what do you know?
You brought a guy home and you did Chinese finger cups with Sheila.
Yeah.
Basically. That's what it sounds like happened anyway to me.
Yeah, they don't really get into it, yeah. Yeah, they says, yeah, Pete's dad asked what happened, and he's like...
And you don't know if that man is the mystery man or if
No.
it's supposed to be Fred.
There's no description there at all.
Exactly.
Right? So you just have no idea. So I like the ambiguity of that, right? It's just left open for interpretation. And then Pete's at work the next day.
And then it shows the flashing outside, though.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, Sheila yelling and shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the front lawn.
Yeah. Basically, then that's when Laurent calls and intimidates Pete on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, how you doing? Good. Just want to make sure you're doing good.
Yeah.
Pete meets up with Alice, fucks her again.
Uh-huh.
Oh, here's something interesting. This movie is about a guy going on trial for murdering his wife. And then Robert Blake, the guy who played the mystery man, later went on trial for murdering his wife.
Huh.
He's the guy who's been in that movie since the 30s. But I think he was found not guilty.
Interesting.
But yeah, fascinating. This is Jack Nance's final David Lynch role, too.
Oh, yeah, because he died shortly after this, right?
Yeah, he died from a fight.
Yeah, I think he got into a bar fight and somebody checked on him a couple days later and said, what happened? You know, and he's like, oh, I got into a fight and fucking just died at home. Crazy.
Yeah. There's a documentary. I didn't know that the documentary was about this movie specifically.
Oh, really?
But there's a documentary called Pretty as a Picture, The Art of David Lynch.
Okay.
And it's just a documentary about David Lynch making this movie. And I'm like, holy shit, I need to see that.
That'd be very interesting to see.
A lot of stuff I read about this movie described interesting perspectives about the primal female empowerment in this movie.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That Patricia Arquette, as both characters, has
Yes.
over men.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting. That's what that music kind of indicates to me, too. And the slow motion and, like, the monstrous, like, breathing and weird, like, shit during the sex scenes. It's kind of like... That's what I get from that, is, like, the... Yeah, how they described it, primal female power.
Yeah.
So, she tells Pete her story about how she had the job offer or whatever from Andy.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because earlier Renee had said that she knew Andy from a job offer.
Yes. There's some interesting pieces like how all this shakes out. But
They bring her into the room.
Obviously Pete gets upset thinking that yeah, she's doing porn, right? And then she explains her story because at first she's like, no, because she realizes obviously that
Well, she kind of is doing porn.
Yeah, but that's not what she was doing at that moment when she first got called there.
Oh, I mean,
when she's at gunpoint here in a second.
No, but she probably
does afterwards is the impression I got.
Yeah, but I mean, she fucked the Loja right in front of them all clearly. Like,
Yeah.
probably was about to blow him if they hadn't cut away from that scene.
Yeah.
More Marilyn Manson during that scene, too. The guy fucking points the gun at her head and she starts to strip. And there was a horror website that claimed this was like one of the sexiest dances, and I was like, it's disturbing.
What, her striptease there?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, she's at
the context around the whole situation is disturbing, especially knowing how she feels about it now. Even though she did say that, like, she kind of liked it later.
Yeah.
Still, very weird. And it's not like a very sexy scene to watch or anything. It's unsettling.
Well,
But
like
maybe
I said,
that,
a lot of the sex scenes in this are unsettling intentionally because there's the slow-mo
Right.
piece. Like here, she's held at gunpoint, and you're like, to me, that automatically like removes the situation because, you know, as a trauma survivor, you know she's just putting herself in a head spot just to survive that situation, which is way downplayed in the way this comes through. But if you've been through any kind of shit in life, you know that that's what's happening.
Yeah. So she's like, all right, well, we should call Andy and we can get money from this motherfucker. She's kind of vague about that. About just like robbing him, I guess.
All she says is, yeah, you know, he's got a bunch of money that he keeps on hand. And so he's like, you sure about it?
She's like, yeah, don't you want to be with me? Have a manipulation.
Yep.
And then Pete gets another call from Laurent. And he's like, good, you're doing good. I just want to make sure you're doing really good. Hey, talk to my friend here. And then the guy on the other end of the phone is the mystery man. And he's like, we've met before, haven't we?
Yeah, so you get those deja vu vibes, right? Obviously intentionally. So you're like, what the fuck is going on?
They pretty
with
much
this?
repeat a little bit of the dialogue from that, too.
Mhm, yeah.
And then he says some more cryptic shit.
Yeah, and it really freaks him the fuck out, right?
Enough to want to leave and do her plan with her.
Yeah, he's totally unsettled at that
So
point.
then you cut to him on the fucking bus.
Yeah.
Because she told him to get on a bus and not take his car to do this shit.
Yep.
Takes over to Andy's.
She says, at 11:15, I'm going to send him down to make me a mixed drink. Okay, so he's down in there waiting with, I don't know if it's like a candle holder or something like that, but it's just some sort of little statue, ornamental thing.
And he fucking jams this motherfucker in the head.
Stands up from like...
Reminds me of like Weekend at Bernie's
fucking
shit here.
Decks him. Yeah, just knocks him right in the fucking head. And then the...
Oh, I like that, though. So that's where the Rammstein starts playing.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And when he first walks in, though, before he even sees him come down or anything, he sees her being fucked on the TV.
Yeah, so he sees that on the big screen. It's like projector, right?
Yeah.
It's not even a TV, I don't think. It's projector.
Yeah, so Andy was probably like, hey, let's put you on fucking, and then we'll go fuck.
Yeah, probably watched a video to get in the mood, right? Because he is a porn producer.
Oh, God.
And the best thing is immediately she comes in the room.
They start smooching.
Alice, yeah, smooching, and then all of a sudden...
Fucking lunges at him.
Andy stands up and lunges at him, and like, I don't know if he just does an evasive maneuver or whatever.
Kind
but,
of.
You know, to try to get around him and then accidentally fucking kill this motherfucker. My favorite thing about this death scene is the way the glass like splits right through the head and the glass table doesn't break.
Well, yes, and the money shot doesn't even come right away. They don't show the bottom of it. They just show the top, so you're like, wow, that...
Oh, yeah.
The glass went into this motherfucker's head off the edge of the table.
Yeah, he stabbed his eye on the edge of a table and it killed him, right? Went right through his eye to his brain. Okay, cool. Nope, you see later on, it's much gorier than that.
He's like, we killed him. And she's like, you killed him.
Yeah, and she takes a minute to say that, too, which is great, because I was waiting for that line, but she's like, no, you killed him. And then at that point, he's like, oh, fuck.
Oh, this bitch.
My friend, don't be a jerk.
And then the other important piece in this is after they're just kind of calmly discussing, he's walking around the room and sees the picture of her.
Renee and Alice are in the
Renee
picture.
and Alice next to each other, and Renee is standing
with
next
Dick
to...
Laurent and Andy.
Yeah. And Renee is next to Dick, and Alice is next to Andy. So you're just like, what the fuck? And she's like... He basically asked her, like, if that's her and her sister, but he doesn't say that.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, that's me, and, like, points to a picture of herself.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, okay.
He's like, is that you? Are they both you, or what? She pulls the gun on him or whatever during that whole thing. And then it's just like, you trust me, don't you? And I wouldn't really do that.
Yeah, put this in your pants.
And then you get the money shot of the bottom of Andy's fucking head on the bottom
you
side
see,
of the
like,
table.
the fucking glass table, like, halfway through his head. That's a beautiful shot, too.
Well, I like how they saved it, too, because, like, you're like, I wanted to see the bottom of that.
You weren't going to revisit that, right? And most movies wouldn't, but the fact that you go
They would
back
have
by
just
that on
money
the way
shot at
out-
it right away and then moved along.
A little suspense there, because at first you're like, oh, shit. And then you're like, oh, fuck, he really is fucked up. And you see that pool of blood underneath it, too, and really see how much blood he was losing.
So she's talking about taking all of Andy's shit and selling it to a fence, and how we got to go to his cabin, basically.
It's in the desert.
So then you get more highway scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see this cabin burning, and it looks very weird, like the wind's blowing really weird. And then you slowly start to realize this is in reverse. The footage is in reverse.
Yeah.
David Lynch doing more reverse. Am I watching Twin Peaks? And then it fucking slowly decombusts. I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah,
And
you see the reverse of the explosion. And did we not see that when Fred was in jail, too? That was the same...
We saw it burning, that cabin. I don't know.
But we didn't see it in reverse, getting sucked
It
back?
might have been in reverse, but I don't think we
Okay.
saw it all the way like that. They arrive there, though. Leave the gun in the car. The cabin's empty. So they go and turn on the radio. She turns it on to static, which I found very fascinating. Very weird and just David Lynch.
And I interpret that two ways. Was there nothing, they couldn't pick up anything where they're at, is one way I interpret it. And the other thing is she just put on static just to be mindless.
Or it's
I don't
just
know.
David Lynch, man.
Exactly. But either way, so they have the headlights on, and I think they're driving a Ford Mustang at that point in time.
And they decide to fuck right there. She's
In
like,
front of
don't you
it.
want me?
Yeah,
and then
so
that's
as
when
they're-
they play that song again, this Mortal Coil.
And there's regular fucking going on here, right? But then, like, throughout it, I'd say about a quarter of the way in, he starts saying, I want you.
All right, I have a question. Yes, this is a perfect time to pause before we get to that. You know, like, you ever been, like, in a desert area like that where it's dirt and not sand, and it's a lot of, like the dirt is so fine that if you
It's
put
fine.
water on it, like, the water just bubbles almost? Like, it
Yeah,
looks
'cause
like
it's having a hard time, yeah.
It holds together and stuff, and you can, like, turn it around almost, and it's very weird.
Yeah, I live in Arizona, too.
So, I'm just curious what it's going to look like when they stand up.
Oh, yes.
Or what her vagina's going to look like when she stands up. How rough is what there is happening?
Yeah,
I
because
guess,
they
I'm
start
just
out
wondering
with-
how much dirt is in her pussy after this. Because it's just, ugh.
They start out with him on top, right? And then you eventually see her on top. Because, like, they kind of roll midway through, which is interesting as he keeps telling her, I want you, I want you. And then at the end, she's basically gets up.
Walks in the fucking cabin. No, she says,
you can't have me.
No, you'll never have me.
Yeah. Gets up and walks away and, like, sexually walks up the stairs into the cabin. That's one of the sexier shots in this, right?
And that's interesting because she, like, apparently really didn't like doing all these nude scenes, but, like, wanted to do it also.
Yeah.
So it's like, didn't like it, but wanted to do them. But was, like, threatened people on set, like, to make sure everybody would get off set that didn't need to be there. I'm like, she shouldn't have had to done that, though. So I'm glad that we have, like, intimacy coordinators now. It's a great thing on film sets. So
yeah, things have gone a long way, definitely. But yeah, I get your point on that because that is one of the better shots in there that you're not like, oh, okay, it doesn't feel uncomfortable because it's very empowering for her to tell him that and then walk away and look that way. It's very intentional. So that works pretty well. And then he's just, kind of there.
And then he stands up, and after he stands up, motherfucker's Fred.
Exactly. That's the first time seeing it. You're like, oh shit, that's fucking
back.
wild. And you're like, oh, there's Fred, right?
He goes and he sees the motherfucker, the mystery man. He goes up into the cabin or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, where's Alice?
He's like, don't you mean Renee?
He says, her name is Renee. If she told you her name was Alice, she was lying. And then he's like, what about you? What the fuck is your name? And I'm like, Jesus, what the fuck is happening? And then pulls out the camcorder and starts filming him.
Yes.
And you're almost like, huh.
It's very fascinating because he pulls that camcorder out and, like, he's acting like there's a terrible life-threatening danger in front of him, but he's just being videotaped.
Yeah, and then he follows him all the way to the car, and then he starts sticking his hand at him, and Fred pulls out of the car, and he's wearing
around.
Pete's clothes at this point, too.
Yes, that's the whole thing.
He goes to the Lost Highway Hotel, and he goes to room 25, and in room 26, Renee is fucking Laurent.
Yes. She finishes fucking him, and then she gets up and leaves the room.
Yeah, he watches her leave. Then he goes and knocks on 26.
Well, don't forget, she goes and gets in that pink Cadillac. That old pink Cadillac. And then there's not much significance beyond that, but it's like they make a point to show that Fred sees her getting in this pink Cadillac, and he's waiting for her to leave.
Yeah. And then he goes and beats the shit out of Laurent.
Mm-hmm.
Pistol whips the shit out of him and forces him into the trunk of his car.
Yep.
While you're hearing Rammstein again. And the mystery man watches this from inside the hotel.
Yes.
Then they get back to the cabin. And as soon as he opens the trunk, the motherfucker jumps on him like a hangover.
He lunges at him, yeah. Coming right out at him, yeah.
The mystery man, he fucking holds out his hand like this, and the mystery man hands him a fucking knife.
Yeah, and then he slashes his throat. It's fucking crazy. Like, I was like, whose fucking hand was that? And then you just see the mystery man standing next to him. You're like, oh, fuck, okay.
And then the mystery man hands Laurent a little fucking portable hand television, and it's like there's some crazy shit on it of porno. The same porno from before, the Manson shit with...
Yes.
But that wasn't before, but the Manson stuff and the... What's the other guy's name?
Well, don't they show Alice fucking too? Then that
well,
was
that's what I'm saying. There's just random gore.
Yeah, there's that random first fucking scene that was playing on the projector. Then you see the Manson and Twiggy porno thing, and then you see like the random gore on there. So
and
there's
then you
several
see
things.
Laurent and Renee. Laurent and Renee watching the weird porn, and he's like fucking trying to fuck her basically right there. And then I got lost. Oh, and then it shows them sitting there watching.
Yeah, and then it basically shows like a live scene, right? You know, like the guy in the scene watching.
Everything you're watching now is happening now.
Exactly.
Bill Pullman.
Exactly. It's a callback. It's a good callback, too. Because a lot of people aren't thinking about that when David Lynch does have a sense of humor.
Lost Highway, the VHS.
Yeah. And
that's when Laurent says, you and me, mister, we can really out-ugly them sons of bitches.
Yeah, and then he fucking...
And then he pulls out a gun and fucking shoots a motherfucker.
Right point blank between the eyes, and then shoots him again, like I think in the chest. Fucking just lays him out dead.
Whispers in Fred's ear and fucking vanishes.
Yeah, you don't even see him vanish. He's just frame here, frame gone.
The detectives, then it cuts to the detectives at the house of Andy.
Mm-hmm.
And the photo now only shows Renee, no Alice.
Yes.
Fred drives to his old house, where he buzzes the intercom and says into it, Dick Laurent is dead. And you're like, oh, it was him. And that's what I mean by this movie's a Mobius strip. It's like a cylinder that... you'd have to look it up. Just look up Google Images Mobius strip, and you'll get what I'm saying. Because it's a circle, so it implies that it repeats, but it's also like stuff that changes... I don't know,
it's like a circle cut into certain things so things can slide into different places, right, and replace them.
I'm just going to look up a picture so at least you understand what I'm saying. There you go.
Okay, yeah.
So, like, if you're on this side of the paper, you're on the inside of it there, which is now the outside of it.
Yes.
So, like, if you're writing on that whole thing, it's one piece of paper, but it's still, like, you would switch sides.
Constantly, yeah, back and forth.
Which is basically what this kind of movie does with characters. It's fascinating.
Yes. And then, so you see Fred go get in that car, and he's still driving the BMW at this point, right? Because he's no longer in the Mustang. Because he keeps Mr. Eddie's car.
Yeah, something like that.
And so the police follow him off into the desert, and they're chasing him on a high-speed chase. And then all of a sudden, the cop cars are gone, and then we get that crazy intent, violent shaking and distortion, and like you see his head get really fat, and like you see some fangs on there.
Yeah, basically some like weird mutating, basically is what it looks like. And then that's when there's more Nine Inch Nails playing during this.
Yeah, and then you get more of the
highway and
headlights
Bowie.
on the highway. Yeah, driving down the middle of the lane. Very interesting, because then it cuts back to the same music, too, from the beginning, or
Yeah.
the Bowie song, and you're like, okay.
Funny how secrets travel. I start to believe if I were to leave, I'm deranged.
So there's several things going on in this movie, right? And you can interpret it however you want. It's Lynch. But I've seen it once. You've seen it more. So let me ask you this. So the things that I felt like when I was done watching it was, we see the scene in the jail where they switch places, right? And so to me, it's like we see when they only trade places once in this movie. And that's there. And then the other side of that coin, right? The tails to that side of the coin when they switch is out by the cabin in the desert, right? Because that's the only time that it would make sense for them to switch spots.
I wouldn't say that they're necessarily switching either. I feel like there's some sort of like alternate dimension time flow thing happening that where there's a loop that's being exploited that's like twisting. Like I'm literally visually seeing the Mobius strip and trying to think of that in terms of a
storytelling.
Yes.
Okay.
Because he returns later to himself. So there's clearly some sort of time loop there where there was two of him. The ending of the movie is also the beginning. But it's not necessarily reliant on like, oh, he was doing these things the whole time or anything. It just does that one little bit. He did this one thing at the beginning that you kind of remember. So
yeah, I mean it's non-linear. I mean that's pretty straightforward,
it's
right?
definitely open to interpretation, but I take it as like there's a disruption in time flow basically, and with alternate dimensions.
And so one thing that Liz posed to me, since she's seen this several times, so she said that she thought Pete was Pete the whole time and that Fred was Fred the whole time, but they were just, their minds were just switched at some point in time. But I was like, I don't know. There's so many different ways you can interpret that.
Yeah.
Because the other interesting piece there is that when they say like Pete's fingerprints are all over this place, when the cops go back and you see them back at Andy's house.
Yeah.
And
because Pete was there, he did all that.
Yeah. And even though they're acute, they want to say that it's Fred based on the fact that was, you know, Renee and everything was known to be there. So
yeah.
Very, very trippy movie, but so many Twin Peaks vibe. Like, you know, is this like Black Lodge, White Lodge style places, like where there's these alternate realities that are just crossing over for fucked up shit to happen.
Well, David Lynch also does a lot of shit with doppelgangers. And there's not a lot of doppelganger shit introduced in Twin Peaks that we've been watching yet, other than Laura Palmer and her cousin.
Mm-hmm.
But Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive, and Inland Empire, and Twin Peaks: The Return all deal with doppelgangers, where a woman or a man look like the same person, either are or aren't, in some weird way.
Sure. Very crazy shit. But definitely a great film. Check it out, especially if you like the Twin Peaks stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that one's very digestible, right? Some of his other stuff's a little different.
Yeah.
But you can watch that start to finish and not be huge into David Lynch. And
It's easier to watch than Eraserhead. About on par with Blue Velvet, maybe a little harder to watch than Blue Velvet because it's a lot weirder. Blue Velvet's more linear for sure. That's that though.
Let's jump into the top five.
Top five. Top five. Top five. Top five. Top five. Top five. Top five. Top five. Top five. Top five.
This is top five.
So top five wholesome personalities of celebrities, like personality, like a famous person, basically.
Yeah, we basically decided to do this because of the new Steve from Blue's Clues video going, you know, everybody's talking about it lately, and I enjoyed it because I did watch Blue's Clues when I was a kid, so
yeah, it made sense. It was kind of a wholesome thing. And
we're trying to talk about people like that, essentially.
Yeah, so we just threw this one together, but lots of honorable mentions, for sure.
I have two.
Oh,
well,
yeah?
no, three.
Okay.
4. I guess there's 4.
All right.
5. I don't know.
Well, start us off. What's your number 5?
Number 5, Ben Shapiro. Just kidding.
I was going to say that's amazing.
What the fuck?
Is George Bush number 1?
No. Satan.
Donald?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
No. Number 5 is LeVar Burton.
Yes, that's a good one.
Fucking Reading Rainbow, baby.
Yes.
Obviously Star Trek, just an actor in general. Roots. But either way, like, Reading Rainbow was one of those nostalgic things, like, you were always forced to watch in school, at least I was as a kid in elementary school. They always showed them to us, and it's like PBS, right? So it's just one of those things they always put on. I can't even remember during a certain time, but either way, we watched it.
In-service day or something when like the teacher had other stuff to do.
And you weren't mad when they put this on. You're like, oh, this is going to be cool. There were a couple different types of videos I remember when they put them on. You're like, this is awesome. I like this.
Yeah.
And the Reading Rainbow was always one of them.
Yep.
And it was partially his personality. He has just the way he interacted with the camera and talked.
His genuine enthusiasm is really what makes him stand out to me.
So that's my number 5.
My number 5 is Mr. Rogers. I'm a little older than you, so I just remember watching Mr. Rogers. And then just...
Do you know how long that show was on the air?
A long fucking time, yeah.
Yeah, that's not a generational thing. That's like fucking saying you like Sesame Street and saying like, I know it's a little before your time.
Well, the fact that there was just more options when you're around. I'm not saying that you didn't see that because it was on PBS. I'm just saying there's way more options just as far as Nick and Nick Jr. and all that shit. So, but I just remember watching that and having nostalgic feels for just the way he was calm and just talking to you. It didn't feel like an adult was talking to you. It just felt like someone that respected you was talking to you. And I think that goes a long way when you're dealing with little kids.
Yeah.
So, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is Bill O'Reilly.
God damn it. I hate you. Did you steal this list?
No, number 4 is...
You can't see this, can you?
Bob Ross. Because, we just kind of had to. I feel like I had to. Somebody had to. And,
yeah, Bob Ross is my number 4 as well.
Justin was mentioning something about the, documentary earlier. We were talking about it.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it yet.
I watched the Netflix documentary. It's great. It really just talks about how he really got fucked on his intellectual property of his own name, that his own son can't use the Ross name for business endeavors, which is really fucked up.
Yeah.
And depressing as fuck. So you really got to watch your IP out there. But man, Bob Ross is just such a good dude. Like, just watching him paint is so soothing, so calm.
Yeah, I've done it before where I've painted along,
Yeah.
once or twice when I was like, I've never really tried to do these style of paintings. So,
yeah.
But I always use acrylic. So it's like still you have to adjust to a painting with acrylic as opposed to oil because they don't blend the same and shit like that.
Yeah.
Like you can't just do the same thing that he's doing and get the same result with acrylics. But
no,
I fucking hate using oil paints because they don't dry and shit. And I'm just like, I want instant results. I want to hang it up now.
I have one oil painting that's like a 3D, and I fucking coated on because I knew it was going to take forever to dry. And it's finally at a spot where I could continue painting with it because I had spray paint in the background, then I had acrylic, and I had oil, and they're just doing like a mixed media thing. And I'm like, I could finally finish that, but the oil was taking so long to dry. I think I had it in the garage for 6 months, and it was still kind of wet in a few spots. I was like, fuck this.
My number 3 is Kenneth Copeland.
Okay. I'm not familiar with that name.
He's the guy who I used in our Silent Night, Deadly Night videos, the Christian guy with the airplane who he described as the reason he doesn't use public flying is because he doesn't like being in a tube full of demons.
Oh, okay. That's amazing.
Oh, yeah. That guy.
That's amazing.
No, not really. Number 3 is Steve Irwin.
Steve Irwin, yes.
A fucking god among men. Arguably, you could say stupid, but very intelligent. Great man, and I thank him for what he did because another just wholesome person that you could watch on TV. We always watched, I remember Dad used to watch fucking Crocodile Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd just be like, it was kind of a little niche thing at first, like it slowly became very popular.
Yeah, and the thing that was great about him is like he never hurt the animals, right? He's just
he'd always be like, look at this little guy. We're going to get him out of his hole, and I'm going to fondle him for a minute and put him back.
Yeah, he's so enthusiastic about sharing what he was, and he was so fearless with that. Like, even if it was shit you were terrified of, if he was handling it, you were okay with it in the moment.
And he wouldn't take it offense. Here's the thing. Anytime an animal tried to murder him on camera, he would never get mad at the animal because he was like, I understand. I'm the invasive motherfucker here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that takes so much restraint because can you imagine if it was like Justin out there trying to get a snake, you would see Justin murder animals. You would see him murder snakes because he'd be like, no, fuck you. Like, it just wouldn't work. So thank you, Steve Irwin, for being able to do that because we hate snakes.
Snakes. I don't know no snakes.
Snakes.
Tell you what I'm going to do.
All right, my number 3 is Dolly Parton.
That's a good one.
Dolly Parton's a badass. I mean, she's so just fundamentally a good-natured human, right?
I was listening to Dolly today while I drove around.
And she's a great example, like, even in the times of culture changing, right? She's, like, willing to adapt still. Like, she's not a young, she's not young anymore, and she's still willing to, like, learn and change. She's like, okay, so you don't want to call it the Dixie Stampede, so we'll just call it the Stampede or whatever, just, like, changing things and adapting. And
she's what you would call a bad bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we love her.
Yes.
And if you don't, eat my asshole, because Dolly Parton is a treasure.
Working 9 to 5.
My number 2 is Joel Osteen.
Fuck yeah. Motherfucker won't let you in his church. Bitch, you dying in a hurricane? You can't come in here.
Right. He is the innkeeper that turns them away. Except the innkeeper was like, you could sleep in the fucking barn at least, I guess.
No,
Joel Osteen's like, no, you get nothing, bitch.
Yeah, he's like, you can't even you're trespassing, bitch.
Yeah.
What's your real number 2? I like how you have 2 lists of assholes and non-assholes.
Yeah, Mr. Rogers.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Mr. Rogers is one of those ones that I did watch as a kid. And I remember the puppet shit was always super weird and, like, I always thought it was ridiculous, but still enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite parts, for whatever reason, were when he would change his outfits, because they're always like, yeah, change it up. Fuck yeah. Take that cardigan off, put on a different one.
Yeah, put on like his house slipper shoes or whatever. And
exactly.
Change. Yeah, like I'm going out in the world. I'm going to change my shoes. I don't want to wear my good walking shoes out and get them dirty.
Yeah, it was just fascinating. Won't you be my neighbor? And he talked about some very interesting shit sometimes too. So I don't know, man.
Yeah, he got
cool
pretty
dude.
deep with some of that stuff. So, my number 2 is Terry Crews. He's hilarious.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of his videos.
He's a good fucking dude, and the fact that he talks about like the male sexual assault in the industry and is like owned to that. Like everyone's like, how does a strong muscular man be assaulted? And you're like, motherfucker, the same way anyone does. And I'm glad that he was a good enough person to be able to talk about it freely and still just be himself. That
and he's like
talks
talks
about
about being nonviolent and shit too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a good person in general. I get that.
So, what's your number 1?
We're on your number 1, buddy.
Oh, we are? That was just my number 2.
Well, I don't know why you gave me your number 2. We were going back and forth this way. At least that's what I thought we were doing. Didn't we go that way?
I did Dolly Parton. Who'd you do after that?
I don't fucking know. Did you go first? What was your first one?
Mr. Rogers, Bob Ross, Dolly Parton, Terry Crews.
Either way. My number 1's probably better than your number 1 anyway. At least I think so. Unless it is the same one. Carl motherfucking Sagan. Carl Sagan is a god and a gift from the non-existent god. Like, Cosmos is a brilliant series. It's a brilliant book. He wrote other brilliant books. He wrote the fucking Contact. That was turned into a movie with Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey, which is a pretty cool movie we should cover sometime. Because I fucking love Carl Sagan. I plan to get a tattoo of his fucking face.
Okay, fair enough.
Just a very inspirational person for me. I used to use Carl Sagan voiceover clips at the beginning of my shows. Like him saying some really cool fucking shit. Having like weird synthesizer sounds and like air rushing. And then I would start playing a fucking song. And then I later wrote a song called Carl Sagan. So that's pretty cool.
Very nice.
He's a god. I love that man. Well, actually, I forgot to give you my fake one. It was Alex Jones.
Isn't that the InfoWars guy?
Yeah.
Fucking asshole.
That's the, Hillary Clinton's got drone technology in her chewing gum.
Yeah. Fucking crackhead. My number 1's Keanu Reeves. Like that dude for all the crazy movies and shit he does is just a genuinely good dude. And I think aged gracefully, right? He's played violent characters, he's played stupid characters, but he's a very humble, down-to-earth person.
Yeah.
Very insightful shit. Like, you read a lot of his quotes, and you're like, man, that's very, very refreshing to see that in a celebrity of his stature, because he could easily just be a piece of shit if he wanted to. He's got the money to. I'll tell you that.
True.
So, what are your honorable mentions?
Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd, yeah, they're on mine.
Bill Nye. He came very close to being on my list.
Yes.
But I just was like, well, I'd rather put Carl Sagan and then kind of diversify a little bit.
Also had Carrie Fisher on mine and Steve Buscemi.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah.
Steve from Blue's Clues, but I just didn't, I figured since we did this because of him, I can exclude him since we already talked about him a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's the top 5. Let us know what your top 5 wholesome people is. Or, if you have thoughts on ours, etc.
And if you want to get on
people we forgot and stuff.
Like sequel, the top 5 holes you want to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, that's another list.
My first butthole. And you know what that phrase implies?
What's
it
that?
implies that I have a second butthole.
It's not you penetrating someone else's butthole as the first?
No. But actually, has it been done yet? Somebody with a really small penis gets it hard and puts it into the urethra of the other guy with a really monstrous sized cock. Is that like sounding with another penis?
I don't know.
Is that a thing?
You'll have to look it up on the internet later.
Let's make it happen. Let's hire some people and get somebody to do that for us.
That's going to be difficult, but
I think we can make it happen.
Never say never.
It's going to be on our Patreon.
Full of possibilities.
Be sure to sign up when we launch that. Probably launching it in October here. I think we've said that we're going to launch it next month, but we're going to actually try to get it in October, I think.
Yeah, we've been pretty busy. You got moved, and I got moved, and everything else.
It'll probably be towards the end of October and closer to, Halloween.
So.
We now return to the real Ghostbusters.
Diane, 11:30 a.m., February 24th. Entering the town of Twin Peaks.
Pretty good. Bill Murray's the funniest man on the planet.
Episode by episode.
It's episode by episode. Twin Peaks, Variations on Relations.
Yeah, again, I hate the titles for these episodes because they have nothing to do with anything. They were literally, the titles came from a German TV release episode, and then they were translated to English and CBS, and people use them for like Hulu and shit. But other than that, they're literally just titled like. David Lynch would call this episode 27, even though it's season 2, episode 19. Overall, it's episode 27. That's what they refer to it as. Okay. Just a note for everybody's ear holes.
What about their eye holes? You just have to watch.
Well, that's a note for your ear holes. Like, I don't know how you can look at that unless you want to look at the...
Well, if it's a note, isn't it written down?
No.
Your note's written down.
All right.
My friend, don't be a jerk.
Too late. Can't help it.
Holy shit!
So, Owl Cave. Coop and Harry, I said Carrie. Coop and Harry, I ship them.
Mm-hmm. Well, after the cliffhanger episode ending last time.
Do you know what that means? Are you old?
What?
Ship.
Ship?
I ship them.
You ship them?
Yeah. That's when you want two fictional characters, or real characters, I guess, real people. You see them and you want them to fuck.
Oh.
You want them to be together. I ship Coop and Harry.
Well, that's fine. They may as well. They only live once.
Justin's old and doesn't get the young time pop culture lingo. This isn't even like new. This is like 10 years old, so I don't either. This is not even me being young and hip with like TikTok culture or something like that. This is just like 2011.
I just never heard it around then.
Yeah, it's interesting. Justin stays away from darker places of the internet. Do you know what a furry is, Justin?
Yes, I know what furries are. Thank you very much.
And you know what sounding is?
Yes.
All right, well.
I know a lot of fucked up things, but I just don't know them all.
Did you know that Ted Raimi's in this episode?
Who's he play?
You didn't know that?
Uh-uh.
He's the motherfucker who's all like with Wyndham Earle the whole time.
Oh, no shit.
He's the guy tied up that Wyndham Earle kills with the arrow.
Oh,
which
fuck.
We'll get into.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, he did look familiar, but with the long hair and everything else, I didn't even recognize him. It's beautiful. Plus, I'm used to looking at old Ted Raimi now. So.
Well, yeah. I'm used to looking at young Ted Raimi too, though, because he's in other stuff. But, like, most recently, I guess, Ash vs. Evil Dead, we're looking at old him. But that's him, yeah. He has this role in this episode, and
it's pretty
good, funny. He's so wacky and weird in it, which, you know, Ted Raimi.
I just want some beer, man.
He's Rusty Tomasky. He's like a musician that was on tour, and then apparently Wyndham Earle kidnapped him.
Yeah.
And he's just like feeding him beer while he's putting up the... I love that. They're building a papier-mâché pawn is what it is.
Yeah.
Revealed to be later, but like you didn't know what the fuck is going on. You're like, what, are they cooking him in soup? Like, oh, I see wire and like newspaper. I get it. But also, I don't understand what's happening at all.
Yeah, no, none of that shit out of context. Early on in the
It's
episode,
so weird.
It's Wyndham Earl, though. It's like, weird motherfucker.
He talks about the White Lodge in the beginning, and that's when it kind of eventually shows you that Ted Raimi's sitting there, and he's the one listening.
Yeah.
But he's like, I want to harness the power of the Black Lodge and all this shit.
Yeah, and he basically says, I don't really care, man. I just came here for the free beer.
And he's like, yeah, just keep serving me beer, dude. Pete sitting there trying to write poetry about Josie.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just fucking hilarious. And Catherine's like, oh, fucking get over it, bitch.
Yeah, she's fucking mean to him.
And then she asks for help with the box. And I don't mean that box, because that'd be fun.
And she's like, what is this? Like, I need to open this. He's like, well, did you try the key?
I don't think Pete has a sex drive anymore. That's all. I think he's just over that. Otherwise, he'd be out pounding something, I hope. Because Pete is wholesome. Mostly.
I mean, he puts up with her shit, so he still
and
loves her.
Yeah, he still supports the shit out of her, even though she's a cunt.
Yeah, she treats him like shit, but he's still there for her, so he takes his vows serious.
And she's like asking for help with that fucking mystery box she got from Andrew? Was it from Andrew? Or was it from Eckhart? Oh, it's from Andrew. Shelly and Bobby are hanging out at the diner, and he's like, yeah, Shelly, you need to cash in on your good looks and enter the Miss Twin Peaks contest. She's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't really feel like that. And he's like, listen, babe, Bobby's in charge, and you're going to do what I say.
Yeah,
and that's where you're like, Bobby, don't even fucking turn... You
coming around to be a Leo, and you're like, fuck you, dude.
Like, you were shitty at first, and then you sort of got better, and we gained sympathy for you when we realized how Laura manipulated the shit out of you because of her shit.
Yes.
But then you had that moment with your dad, and we were like, all right, Bobby's cool. We like Bobby now.
Uh-huh.
And now, all of a sudden, you see this, and you're like, I hate Bobby again.
Yeah.
Don't be like this. Bobby's in charge. And you're like, Bobby? No.
That's all right, though, because we get a feel-good moment later. Well, kind of.
Cooper and Annie. He's, like, flirting with her, and he's like, would you like to accompany me on a nature study later?
Yeah.
That means we're going to go fuck in the woods.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I hope I don't get any ticks on my balls.
Just the tip.
Shelley shows Coop the poem she got from I think it was the episode before last, actually.
Yes, yeah, it was. Is that when he finally has a third piece to that?
I think that's when he discovers it at all.
Oh, okay.
The first one. That's the first piece to him. And then he tells Harry about it, and then they ask Major Briggs about the Project Blue Book.
Mm-hmm.
They come to an agreement that if it helps save lives, he'll reveal what he knows.
Yeah, and the utmost respect that they have for each other there, I like. Coop is always very serious. He's like, I can't really say, that I have access to that still. And he's like, no, I understand. And he's like, okay, well. And that's when he asks the questions. If it'll help save lives, I'm willing to work with you on it.
Yeah.
So that whole relationship is way underplayed in this series because there's so much respect there and two very, very interesting characters working together.
Dick Tremaine is asking Ben about some fucking shady money dealings. What happened to his nose? I don't even remember. Was that in the last episode?
Yeah, I'm not...
Either way, Dick Tremaine, who I hate, his nose is fucked up, and he's like talking about lawyers and getting money from Ben Horne because of it. And then when he walks away, I love Ben Horne. He's like, the overwhelming urge to do bad is... like, I don't know, overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah, it's almost overcoming. And that's great because like it just shows that his character has changed, yet he's still like acknowledging that he's just acknowledging the emotion instead of acting on it.
And then he eats a fucking carrot and...
Yeah, takes a bite out of the carrot like motherfucker looks like Mr. Ed. Takes a bite out of a carrot and moves on. Like, okay.
And I always, like, the first time I watched this, that's where they show, like, more of Ted Raimi and shit. Like, I legit thought, like, what are they cooking him? Is this like a fucking witch's cauldron? What's happening here? Then he kills him with an arrow.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, he gives this long speech about how, there's only certain people that have ever, I don't know what he's talking about. He's talking about basically experiencing what's beyond death.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, you are about to be one of the people who knows what that is. And then he fucking shoots him with the arrow. And he dies, like, instantly, and it's like there's fake blood dripping out of his mouth, and it's kind of cheesy, but it works.
Yeah, it just gets the point across. It's quick.
The judges for this thing are Pete, Dr. Hayward, and the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Ben gives a speech about how the subject of their speeches should be about environmentalism that year.
Yeah, but we forgot the thing where who's the girl that's asking the judge to...
We didn't really forget it. But she asked him previously, yeah.
Yeah, what's her name?
I can't remember her name right now.
She's
before, but she was with the mayor's brother or whatever before, and then he died, and now she's with him.
Okay.
So.
I was going to say, she didn't look super familiar, but just vaguely.
She's that girl, yeah. Remember when he was in there with...
Yeah, because she asked, she's like, well, you're a judge, and he's like, well, I can't really do that ethically.
Yeah.
And then it implies that she exchanges sexual favors.
Well, actually, this is... I still think that happens after this anyway, because this isn't the whole scene with that. This is just Ben talking to the judges, and he's talking about doing the environmental speech.
Yeah, I have a note after that a little later down. So when they're doing the Miss Twin Peaks pageant, he has a suggestion on how to saving the forest, and then Pete gets all snarky with him, like, this doesn't have to do with your wanting Ghostwood Estates to not happen, right?
Yeah.
And he gives him a speech. He's like, this isn't a matter of business. This is a matter of doing the right thing.
Nadine shows up because she's trying out, and then Bobby and Mike have a little talk, which is fucking hilarious.
Yeah, because he yells at the end of it, and he's like, what are you seeing her? And
he's like, basically trying to... Bobby's just like, why the fuck are you fucking this old woman? And he's like, you don't get it, you're not going to understand. Then he's like, no, I will try my best to understand. And he says, I wrote down the line, do you have any idea what the combination of sexual maturity and superhuman strength can result in?
Mm-hmm.
And then he whispers something to him, and Bobby yells or whatever.
Yeah, and everyone in there looks at him, and he apologizes real quick.
Pete drops their puzzle box, and it reveals another puzzle box inside.
Mm-hmm.
With moons on it, the lunar cycle or whatever.
Yeah, so the first layer of the shell is opened on that, basically, is what I gathered.
Cooper and Annie on a boat. This is goals. If you watch this scene and you're a nice lady that resembles Heather Graham, or you're Heather Graham and you're watching this, I would love to go on a boat with you like this and have this 90s fall vibes date that just the camera style and everything, somebody can film it for us too, so we can get this whole vibe going, and then we can have Angelo Badalamenti do the score for us. That'd be great.
Yes.
So that's my pitch.
So and she doesn't want to talk about being a nun with him because he asked her about it.
Yeah.
And then she's basically saying she had to come back here to overcome her trauma and fight her trauma, which is an interesting conversation, right? You're like, oh, okay, I understand that. It just puts a little bit more context around her character and why she's there all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So I like that little bit of conversation that they included.
Shelley and Gordon eating pie with Coop and Annie.
Yeah, but Gordon calls Shelley a goddess, and she's surprised by that.
She fucking is. Every time I'm watching this show, and I mean, I hope this doesn't come off as me objectifying her, but I do look at her and I'm like, my God, she's just fucking beautiful, man. There's just something specifically about Shelley. And 10 years ago when I watched this, I felt the same way about Audrey. So I don't know what it is, if it's just a phase thing, but she's just gorgeous.
I think it's just being able to see beauty in different things, right? And, your cycle changes, but...
Her delivery and her character is just, it's
she's
one of those
great
ones
there,
that's
though, too.
Easy to fall in love with. So... yeah, he's basically hitting on her, and he's like he hit on her before in the previous episode. But he's like, what are you doing?
Scratching his ear.
Don't scratch it hard.
I didn't. I just put my finger right there.
Come here. Let me look at your ear.
All right.
So it's he goes in to kiss her. I don't look like anything wrong with your ear. I'm sorry we have to interject in the podcast to check the dog ear. Hope you don't mind.
Yeah, don't worry. We're just doing a little vet work.
Down here?
Yeah, it's tender.
Oh, we'll clean it out in a minute. Okay, baby boy. So he goes in for the kiss, and Bobby walks in right at this fucking moment. He's like, what the hell is going on? What the hell are you doing?
And then Gordon goes... The best part of the scene is Gordon going from talking casually and in a regular tone to Shelley, and then fucking yelling at everyone else.
Which I have his lines written down because this is one of the most famous scenes in Twin Peaks in general. It's just one of those lines that's often quoted and shit. But he says, You know, what the hell is going on is what Bobby says. Gordon turns right the fuck around and says, "You are witnessing a front 3/4 view of two adults sharing a tender moment." And then he turns around to Shelley and says, acts like he's never seen a kiss before. "Take another look, Sonny. It's gonna happen again."
And then goes in for the smooch.
And then they fucking smooch.
And she looks him in the eye right before she kisses Gordon at him.
Yeah,
It's like
she's
the
there
ultimate
for it.
Fuck you.
It's because he was a fucking prick to her earlier.
Yeah. And she's being treated nice. So.
Like, it's one thing, you know, she's not doing it because they had an argument, but he was literally like, Bobby's in charge, so yeah, this is justified. Fuck him. Fuck Bobby now.
And yeah, so.
Yeah, I just love that scene. It's funny. Cooper
and Wheeler are sitting fireside.
Mm-hmm.
They're having a drink, just having a little chat.
More quotable lines, not the cheesy "love is hell." But, and he's like, "How are you feeling?" And he's like, "It feels like someone's taking a crowbar to my heart." That's a good line.
Yeah.
That's just dope. I love fucking Dale Cooper, man. That's about the extent of that scene. Donna asks her mom at dinner about Ben Horn. She's like, "Oh yeah, why'd you get roses from Ben Horn? Why'd you drive over to his house? What's going on with that, Mom?" And her mom's in a wheelchair, so you're like, is she like having an affair or what's going on here?
Yeah.
The mystery box at the gazebo.
Yes.
What could it be? Well, we know what it is. If you're paying any attention, you kind of have gathered that, oh, I'm pretty sure I know what this is, but I don't exactly know what it is. Cooper sets up this way to shoot a fucking caution tape rock or whatever and flip open the box or whatever, and it reveals that it's
because they're all
Ted
worried.
Raimi's character. Like he's been built into a fucking giant chess pawn, and he's dead.
Yeah, he's dead.
And then they roll credits.
Yeah, right as you start thinking you're going to get a better look at Ted Raimi's character, you just see the credits go, and you're like, what? Because is there a note attached or something, too, that's continuing their chess game?
Yeah, it says something on it.
And I don't even think they reveal that in this episode. It just implied that it's going to pick up on the next one.
Yeah.
So.
That's fucking fascinating, though.
It's a good episode. Pretty wild shit. Anyway, jump in the comments. Let us know what you think.
Yeah. Do it.
Do it.
Is this stuff just like disappearing out of here?
I don't know.
Do you see outro listed anywhere? Because it's gone.
I don't.
See, that's weird. Talk about something then.
Oh, there it is.
I still don't see it. Oh. What the fuck? Either way.
So we've got some more videos coming.
Yeah, we're also covering Spectre Vision is coming out this week, and we covered Malignant, the new James Wan movie, available on HBO Max and in theaters now. So if you have seen that, or if you want to see that, go see it. Watch it on HBO Max, whatever. That's coming out Thursday.
Also going to do some Build-A-Fig with the Plasma series, and I've got a bunch of stuff in the mail from Tony Taylor Toys is going to show off finally, so...
Yeah.
Well, we'll see you soon. Don't party too hard. Don't do anything that we wouldn't do.
Have a good one.
These are my dinner guests, the Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. These are my dinner guests, Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. These are my dinner guests, the Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers.
Shut this off. Shut these all off.